Gosh, how many of you have ever had a week like that where just nothing went right? Hey, good morning and welcome to South Point Church. Is anyone fired up to be here this Sunday? Man, I tell you what, I love the 11 o'clock service. We want to say good morning to those of you online, whether you're on our website, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. We want to say good morning to those of you here in the room. Hey, on behalf of what I think are some of the most amazing volunteers, staff, and givers, we really are glad that you chose to be with us this Sunday. We know you could be doing anything, and we really do want to add value to your life. If this is your first Sunday here in the room or online, we hope to see you again next Sunday. By the way, my name is Matt, and I'm part of the team here today. And I'm fired up today because something happened to me a couple of weeks ago. And as this something happened to me, I realized as I was going through this thing, it leads to an issue that every single person on the planet, it doesn't matter where you're at, it doesn't matter what you believe, every person on the planet is gonna deal with this thing. Matter of fact, here's this thing, this experience I had, it led to a truth of something that we're all gonna experience. Hard situations will shape us for good or bad. Here's what I know to be true. Hard is unavoidable, hard is normal, but here's what I know. Hard will either shape us into the life we want, into the person we want, or hard will lead us to a life that we regret, and it'll lead us to regretting the kind of person that we are becoming. Now, here's what happened a couple weeks ago. I was on my way to hang out with a friend. We were going to get burgers. Anybody here like cheeseburgers? I like cheeseburgers. Cheeseburgers are delicious. If you ever want to buy me a cheeseburger, I'll take a cheeseburger. Anyway, so I like cheeseburgers. I was on the way to go to the movies and my friends to get a cheeseburger. I love Five Guys. Anybody love Five Guys? So I was going to the local Five Guys. The local Five Guys is awesome. Thank you, Five Guys. But anyway, I was running a little bit late. I hate running late. You know why I hate running late? It's because I believe people's time is one of the most precious commodities we have, so I hate running late. And I might have been going faster than I was supposed to because I was running late. Not only was I running late, I was a little bit hangry. You ever been hangry where you're like hungry and angry and tired of it? Like I was running late, I was hangry, so I was driving faster than I should have been. But the good thing is I pulled in the parking lot, I could smell the fry. You could just smell the grease clogging my arteries far away, right? So anyway, I saw that there was a spot really close up front, but there was two cars on either side. And I said, don't worry about it. I know I'm going fast. I'm a speed racer. I know how to drive. So anyway, I pull into that car lot, and then I hear a sound that no driver parking the car ever wants to hear. And I went, that's impossible. I'm too good of a driver to have hit the car. As I come into a parking spot, that's impossible. Like that had to be in my imagination. There's no way I actually hit that car. Like this is impossible. Like I'm too good of a driver. So I pull in, I go, I don't think I hit that car. Should I just leave now and not even investigate? But I go, no, I want a burger. So I said, I'm gonna stay, we're going to the movies. So anyway, I get out of the car, I shut the door, and I walk over, and it's the universal car of all the engineers here on base. It was a Ford F-150, it's the universal car that all of you have. There's like 10 or 20 or 30 or 100 of them out in our parking lot, right? And as I looked at the truck, it was a beautiful truck. You could tell it had been well taken care of, and I noticed right on the side where I would have pulled in, there was a nice long scratch. And I went, well, that couldn't have been me. It was probably there beforehand, even though I heard the sound, even though I was driving fast. I said, well, let me go look at my car. And I went and looked at my car, and I noticed my car had a spot that was the same color of their paint. I said, well, maybe that's just coincidence. And I realized in that moment I had hit this person's car. And I was so frustrated because, listen, normally it wouldn't have bothered me. Normally I just would have said, my insurance will take care of it. But I'm such a good driver that I had totaled my car about 3 months earlier. My fault, I wrecked it. I was safe. It wasn't a big total. It was just an old car. So if you had scratched it, it'd total it, right? But it totaled my car. It was my fault, right? So my insurance went up because I had to make a claim because I hit somebody's car. And I bought a new car. It wasn't like a brand new car, but it was a used car, but it was new to me. And it was older than my 20-year-old beater, so the insurance went up. So there I'm in the lot freaking out going, oh my gosh, is my insurance gonna be more than my mortgage payment now that I've hit a car again, right? Am I gonna get dropped? And I'm like, what do I do? And in that moment, I realized that there's a problem that every single one of us faces when we're in a hard situation or a hard season. And here's the thing, that no matter where you're at, no matter what you believe, when you're in a hard situation, a hard season, all of us will face this. Hard will try to define or integrity will try to define our hard. Now here's what I know to be true about every person online and every person in this room, that hard has whispered to us. In the hard situation, in the hard season, hard has whispered, it's okay to do the wrong thing. Normally you wouldn't do that. But because it's hard, because it's you, because of this, and it'll say because of the circumstance, it's okay to do something you wouldn't normally do because you're in a hard situation. Or integrity will stick up and say, hard does not define us, my integrity will. And here's the truth. You already know this. They lead to two very different outcomes. Now, here's my bet. Here's my bet. That every single person online and every single person in this room, at some point when we experience hard, we listened to the whisper of hard and we did something we didn't know we knew we shouldn't have done, but we said hard makes an excuse, and so we did something. But it leads to this problem that we've all experienced, and here's what it leads to. It leads to this truth right here. Making a permanent decision in a moment usually ends poorly, right? Because listen, you get this, you already know, like I'm not telling you, it's not right. Like you already know this, right? Like hard is temporary. Like we have good times, we have bad times, right? But hard is kind of like this. And the problem is sometimes in a hard situation, we'll make a decision with lasting consequences that we don't want. And it usually ends poorly. Now, this is probably not you. Like, I'm not talking to anybody online. I'm not talking to anybody. You guys are smart. You're sharp. Like, this has never happened to you. You've never in a hard situation made a bad decision that ended poorly. But you probably know somebody that's done this, right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe you knew somebody that they were in a job. They got in a fight with their boss, and they go, I'm going to show that boss. And you quit, right? And then you realize, oh, this money thing's pretty important to pay the bills. Whoopsie. I need that money. That's pretty important. I can't believe I just did that. Maybe this has happened to you. Maybe you got into a fight with your friends. I mean, we're broken, they're broken, and you can love your friends, but we're two different people, right? And maybe in that moment, instead of addressing the hard with your friend, you told everybody else about the problem, and you lost that friendship. Maybe you were in a hard season or hard situation financially, and you cheated on your taxes, or you took a shortcut, and they found out. Maybe you were in a hard situation, a hard season in your marriage. By the way, I had a little secret to let you in. If you're married, it's gonna be hard. It's two broken people living together forever. And then you make imperfect people and you try to make it. Listen, if you're married, it's gonna be hard. Don't be surprised. Everyone's marriage is hard. But here's the problem. Sometimes in a hard season, a hard situation, hard will lie to us or will cross lines that shouldn't have been crossed. And it ends poorly. You can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. And the reality is sometimes in our family, we will say things that we shouldn't say, and you can never unsay them. It's like toothpaste. Once you squeeze it out, you ain't putting it back in the tube. Now, this isn't about shame. This isn't about guilt. Here's what it is. When hard shapes us, we end up with a life we regret, and we end up becoming someone we wish we would never become. And so we're left with two choices. Does hard define us, or does our integrity and character define hard? Now we're gonna come back to that in a moment. Matter of fact, we're in week 3 of our series called When Life is Hard. And listen, there's really just one simple idea. There's one simple idea behind this whole series. And here's the simple idea behind the whole series. We're gonna put it on the screen. It says, without the what? Skill. You notice I didn't use the term ability. Because I didn't use the term ability is because if I use the word ability, you'd be like, well, I don't have that ability. I get to be a jerk. Nobody gets to be a jerk. Everyone can have the skill of handling hard things, because if we don't, we cause ourselves more unwanted and unnecessary pain. Now I'm gonna stop here. For those of you in the back, I know that maybe last week I told you this, but I can see you every Sunday. For those of you in the middle, I can see every Sunday. So I'm gonna take a survey. How many of you, by a show of raising hands, how many of you have done something dumb that created unwanted and unnecessary hard in your life? We've all done it. So we need the skill of handling hard so we don't create more harm or more hard, because listen, life is hard enough by itself. Can I get it? Amen, right? And so this is the simple idea. But why is life hard? Well, life is hard why do we need the skill? Because of this truth right here. The pain of hard is what? Unavoidable and normal. Jesus tells us, this is what I love about being a Jesus follower. Jesus doesn't lie to us. Jesus tells us the truth. In this world, you will have trouble. Matter of fact, Jesus says every day will have its own trouble. You shouldn't worry about tomorrow, just worry about today. The pain of hard is unavoidable, normal for simple, like you already know this, right? Back week 1, we said, we're dumb. I'm dumb, right? Part of the reason the world's broken and life's hard is because I'm dumb. Part of the reason hard is normal and unavoidable is because, well, everyone else is dumb. And then every system is designed by broken people, led by broken people, and used by broken people. And then the world's broken and it's tragedy. So the pain of hard is unavoidable and it's normal. But here's what I love about Jesus. Jesus tells us this truth. And here's the unchangeable truth that we've been saying every week. You can't avoid hard. I know there's some TV preachers that say if you send them money, you get a car, you get a car, and you get a car. But Jesus tells us in this world, you will have trouble. But Jesus does say that we can what? Anybody here want to limit their hard? Man, I want to limit my hard, right? And so Jesus tells us that if we put his teachings into practice, We won't avoid hard, but we can what? Limit hard. Now here's the thing. Jesus doesn't tell us to know his teachings. Jesus doesn't tell us just to believe his teachings. Jesus says we actually have to, I'm not that smart. What a trick question. We actually have to do his teachings, right? So we can't just know them, we can't just believe them, we actually have to put them into practice. Now, here's the good news. If you missed week 1 or 2, don't worry, today's gonna make sense all by itself. But I really wanna encourage you to go to our website, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and there you can catch up on demand. So there I am, in the parking lot of Five Guys, hangry. I can smell the burgers and fries. I just wanna be inside. And I'm looking at the mark on my car, and I'm looking at the scratch, and I'm going, what should I do? But my brain already knows what to do, but for some reason I was stuck. You know, part of me was like, my brain saying, you should go in and tell somebody. And the other part of my brain was going, get in your car and run, Forrest, run, right? Like just hide, pretend. And I was like, why is this such a struggle? And it got me thinking, why in hard situations do you guys, good smart people, and my guess is all of us, whether you're online in the room, good smart people, even people who want to follow Jesus, no matter where you're at, no matter what you believe, I bet at some point we've all followed the whisper of hard and done something we knew we shouldn't have done. And it got me thinking, well, why is that? And all of a sudden, it's popped into me. It's because hard can actually overwhelm us, right? Because in the middle of hard, there are no immediate answers, right? Like, I hit this car, I realize, I don't know if my insurance is gonna drop me. I don't know how much they're gonna raise it. I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen when I walk in. This person could punch me in the face. I'll end up at the church with a black eye, and everyone's gonna ask me about my black eye. I'm gonna have to lie about my black eye. I don't wanna lie at church, right? And so, like, I didn't have any immediate answers, but that's what happens. Hard overwhelms. Our brain goes on overdrive, and we don't have any immediate answers. We don't have any immediate solutions. Listen, I love Marvel Comics. I love the Marvel series, but I don't own the Infinity Stone. I don't own a time stone where I can go back in time and undo that, right? I didn't have any immediate solutions. I don't carry a buffer and Ford paint in my car to fix it when I scratch another car, right? I just didn't have it. I didn't have any immediate solutions to fix this, right? And then there was no immediate relief. I was hungry and I couldn't go get food because I had to solve this problem. And I didn't even know what this problem would look like if it solved. Somebody would yell at me. Like, I just had no immediate solutions and no immediate relief. Like, I was just sad, frustrated, and just embarrassed that I hit this person's car because I think I'm a good driver despite what my driving record tells me. And here's what I discovered. Hard can overwhelm us because there's no immediate answers, there's no immediate solutions, and there's no immediate relief for our emotions, which leads to the thing that we all struggle with, because then hard tempts us, right? Hard tempts us to what? We make a dumb choice, but it's not our fault. I was hangry, I drove too fast, but it's the insurance company's fault. Because if the insurance companies wouldn't be rip-off artists and actually would pay and wouldn't charge me too much, then I could talk to them, but it's gotta be their fault. Right? I was just blaming it. It was my fault because I drove too fast, right? But we want to blame. How many of us have ever done something dumb and then blame somebody else? Like, no, this is not how it works, right? And then we want to rationalize. I was like, man, I got dings on my car that nobody picked, you know? I had just got it in a month, and then somebody hit my car door. They didn't tell me. They didn't leave me a note. And maybe, you know, mine, so maybe they should do it. Maybe their insurance will pay it. We begin to rationalize behavior that we would not normally ever do because we're allowing hard to tempt us to rationalize. And then to medicate, because listen, it's no fun to be in hard. Do you know what I've discovered about hard? It's hard. Hard doesn't always feel good. But here's the problem. When we medicate our pain with something that causes more pain, we just end up in a dysfunctional loop that harms ourselves. And this is what hard tempts us. This is why good, smart people make dumb decisions. You know my biggest role in life is to keep me from stupid me. Anybody got a stupid me on the inside of them? I got a stupid me on the inside of me. And most of my energy goes to keeping stupid me from doing this, right? From listening to this, right? Now, here's the good news. Here's this. Listen. This is really good news this morning. This is what a part of the message I couldn't actually wait to get to. It's because you're not alone. Literally every single person on the planet, regardless of the continent they're born in, regardless of the culture, regardless of the language, and regardless of the generation, every human being experiences the same thing where hard tries to define who we will become. Hard will try to overwhelm us, and hard will tempt us. And here's what I love about Jesus, is God knew that we would struggle with this. God doesn't leave us guessing on what to do. Matter of fact, there was this guy named Paul. Matter of fact, he used to kill Christians until he encountered a risen Jesus. And matter of fact, he was working with a church in a city called Corinth. You have to understand something. Corinth was a Roman city. It was a port city, right? And it was a church, a lot like South Point. Had young people, old people, had people from different ethnicities. It had people who had some church background, no church background. Some people were going to church all their life. And men, women, had all kinds of classes, right? And they were all just trying to follow Jesus, but life was hard. Life hard for anybody? Life was hard. And this Apostle Paul, he writes to people because he goes, hey, listen, I get life is hard. And here's what he writes them in 2 Corinthians. We're going to put it on the screen. He says, therefore we do not what? Because when we're in the middle of hard, we can lose heart. We go, it's just not worth it. Though outwardly we're wasting away, yet inwardly we're being renewed day by day. For our light and what? Momentary. Paul's trying to say, listen, hard is going to happen. Don't be surprised. Hard is normal. Hard is unavoidable. But hard is temporary. For they are achieving for us a what? An eternal glory that far outweighs them all. See, the Apostle Paul is trying to make us understand something. Hard is temporary. Who you are is eternal. Listen, I need you to understand, okay? There are only two things you take into eternity with you, your character and your relationships. Two things. And what he's trying to say is, don't let your eternal character be defined by temporary hard things. And he says, well, how do we do this? How do we make sure that hard doesn't define us and we define hard? He says this in the next verse. So we what? We fix our eyes on what is not seen, not on what is seen. He says, listen, you can see the busted car, you can see these things, but don't focus on that. Focus on the things that you can't see. Because what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is what? Your character, your relationships, who you are, the life that you live, that is something that will echo through all of eternity. But hard times will be forgotten. They are temporary. And what I love is a little bit later in the scripture, in another book, they're writing to Jesus followers, and they tell us what we should fix our eyes on. It says this, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. Now I want to stop here, because anytime a preacher uses the word sin, people freak out. They're like, their mind shut down, their eyes glaze over. But we have the wrong definition of sin. Sin actually means to miss the mark. And when you and I miss God's mark, we harm ourselves and we harm others. So what it's saying is, hey, listen, we can get distracted and we can harm ourselves and others. Let's not do that. Let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on, see, they give us the answer. See, the problem is so many times we look at our circumstances instead of looking at Christ. See, the problem is we look at what hard is instead of what our eternal destiny is, which is not hard. You see, here's the great news. The tomb was empty on the third day. Hard will never define us. It's not our final destination. The same power that rose Christ from the dead will live in our lives, and we know how our story ends. So we fix our eyes on Jesus. Why do we fix our eyes on Jesus? Because he's the pioneer and the perfecter of our faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame. He sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Considered him who endured such opposition from sinners so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. You see, Jesus didn't avoid hard. Jesus at the cross said, hey, no one puts me on the cross. I willingly came to the cross. For the joy, he said, listen, I get hard's gonna be temporary, but there's an eternal on the other side of hard. Now here's the thing, what does this actually look like for us to put in practice? Because you know what, we get to church on Sunday and we clap our hands, and we say amen, and we get this, but I want you to know, we're the least effective when we're here together. We're the church when we step out and live Jesus' teachings Monday through Saturday out in the real world. So what does it actually look like for us to go out and actually live this, where we allow Christ to define our integrity, not hard? Well, there are three things that we're gonna do. I'm gonna put them on the screen. First is our purpose. Jesus defines us, not hard. We need to take our eyes off hard. Listen, hard's gonna happen, but hard isn't what defines us. Jesus and our relationship with him is what defines us. Let me give you a practical example. Anybody here ever done anything hard? Anybody here ever done anything hard? Okay, the rest of you get a life because you haven't done anything hard, right? But we all done hard. So I'm gonna ask them to take a little survey. How many of you have ever saved money that you wanted to spend, but you saved that money for a vacation, a car, or something you want? Anybody ever save money? Right? It was hard, but you saved money for something Yeah, good. Wasn't a trick question. For something better, right? You did something hard to save it for something better. Now, this one's gonna be a little bit like, this might hit close to home, so like, I'm not trying to offend anybody, but how many of us have ever crash dieted? Have you ever crash dieted? Maybe you're going to a high school reunion, maybe it was some like military thing and you don't fit in your uniform that's 20 years old, or maybe you wanted to go to the beach, or maybe you're going on a date. How many of you have ever crash dieted? You went without food, which is really painful because bacon and chocolate are why you should live. I'm just joking. But it's hard. But you died or you did that thing. You did the hard thing for what? For something. How many of you have ever helped a family member move? Anybody here ever help a family member move? I will not help you move. I hate moving. Moving is misery. It's death. I think whoever invented it, you should just sell your house and everything comes with it. You get to clean the mess up, right? I hate moving, don't ask me to move. I even told my daughters, I'm not moving you again. I hate moving, right? But if you ever helped a family member move, it's hard, but at the end of it, when they moved in and you see the joy that you helped them, you feel good. You went through hard for something better. See, here's the truth that the scripture teaches us about our purpose. Jesus defines us not hard. You see, we weren't made, we are not here to exist for temporary comfort. I know what Burger King tells you. Burger King says, have it your way. The problem is what I've discovered about adulting, 90% of adulting is doing what I don't want to do. Any adult in the room knows exactly what I'm talking about. And if you're living in your mom or dad's basement, you're not an adult yet, sorry, right? But here's what I discovered. We don't exist for temporary comfort. We exist for eternal purpose. You see, Jesus went through temporary inconvenience, temporary hard for an eternal glory. And that's what we're made for. We're made to be in a relationship with him and reflect Jesus. So when we experience hard, don't focus on the hard, focus on Jesus who conquered hell and death because we know how our story ends. Second, our responsibility, address what is, don't avoid. Now, I offended everyone at the other two services, so turn to your neighbor and say, I think this is where it's coming. Go ahead and turn to your neighbor and say, this is where it's coming. Yeah, it's good, right? Listen, I don't know if you know this, nothing fixes itself. I don't know if you know, like I've discovered nothing fixes, relationships don't fix themselves, the bills don't pay themselves, the dishes don't wash themselves, the grass doesn't mow itself, nothing fixes itself. Matter of fact, nothing drifts towards greatness. Your marriage will not drift towards greatness, your job will not drift towards greatness, your relationship, you have to step in. Jesus intentionally knew and walked towards the cross. And the reality is what happens is that when we make a mess or someone gives us a mess, we want to avoid it because it's uncomfortable, because it's hard, and because it's painful. We try to go over it. We try to go under it. We try to go around it. We try to do everything, but the only way through hard is through it. Decades ago, I was physically and mentally sick because I worked and lived at a pace of life that was unsustainable. And in that moment, I was pretty mad. I was mad at God, I was mad at people, I was mad at all kinds of things. In a moment of clarity, I realized the problem wasn't everybody else, the problem was me. And what I discovered is that I had to do some different things. I had to address what was mine. What I discovered is you can pretend it's not there. I mean, I don't know if you've ever known people that like get a bill and they just don't look at it because they think it'll go away. That's not how it works, by the way. You know, if someone texts you and there's a problem, if you avoid the text, the problem doesn't go away. Like, just because you avoid something doesn't mean the problem went away. It just means you avoided it for later. You're just adding hard to hard later, right? So we need to address it. And so what does that look like? Why and where and how do we get the courage to address hard? And this is what I love about God. And I'm gonna give you an example of this. I have some daughters, right? And my youngest daughter, she used to do gymnastics. She would do gymnastics every Tuesday and Thursday. She was so cute. You know, she would go to gymnastics and she would roll on the ground and then she would look at Dad. And I'd be in the mirror breathing on it, looking at it. I saw you roll. And every week she'd do the same thing. Roll, yep, you did a hand, yep, good. It's great, every week. And then there was, she's a little kid, so that's okay. You know, it's just fine. I was going, good job, good job. And she was so excited. She got to wear a little outfit. She was just so excited, right? But then there was an older group of gymnasts in there and they would do stuff on the balance beams and they would do stuff. And I was like, they are amazing human beings. Why wasn't I born like that? That's awesome, right? But the one thing that caught my eye is they had this thing. It was this pit, and this pit was full of foam. And what happened is you'd see every once in a while the coach would take a group of kids over there, and they would go over and they would try things in the pit that had foam that they wouldn't try on hard ground. So they could experiment or try things knowing that what they did, they would be okay. And see, that's what I believe. Our responsibility, address what it is. God's grace sets us free. And here's what I mean. God's unconditional love and God's unlimited grace give you and me the courage to do hard things even if we don't succeed. See, here's what I discovered. I can say I'm sorry and it'll be okay. You know why? Because my value doesn't come from me being perfect. It comes from a God who loves me and because of what Jesus did on the cross. I can forgive and I know I can be forgiven because of God's unlimited grace, because of what Jesus did on the cross. You know why we can step into hard? It's because God loves us. Even if we don't get it right, God loves us, even if it was us who made our own mess. And there's an unlimited grace for us as we continue to try. And here's what's even great. As God gives us unlimited grace, we're allowed to give grace to others so that we can set firm boundaries and make sure that they don't hurt us and we don't hurt them. See, we can have the courage to step into it and not avoid it because there's a love and a grace that gives us a place for us to practice our faith in the real world because we know how the story ends. Lastly, our actions. Do the next right thing. Honor God and love others. Now, I want to say something. I think this is where we get it really wrong. Myself, you, we, the church, right? And see, because I can't tell you the number of times I've seen church people, they try to religify Jesus. And here's what I mean. Jesus makes following him so simple. Jesus uncomplicates all the religion. Jesus says, you know what you need to do? Put God first and love your neighbor like yourself. That's it. The problem is when we get into hard, we listen to hard, and then we start to make excuses of why we don't have to put God first and we don't have to love our neighbor. Matter of fact, and I get it, hard can be complicated. Like, no one gets into a hard situation overnight. We get into hard situations, sometimes they can be complicated. I remember I was out to lunch with a friend, and my friend was going through a hard thing, and it was a complicated thing. It wasn't an easy thing. My friend had family members talking to him. My friend had other friends talking to him. My friend was sitting there, and as he's sharing his heart, it's hard. I didn't have all the answers. And he goes, well, what do I do? I have everybody telling me all kinds of different things. And I looked at my friend, I looked straight in the eye, I said, listen, I need you to understand something. It doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what your family says. It doesn't matter what your friends say. You are not going to stand before me, your family, and friends. You're going to stand before a holy God and give account for your life. And here's the reality. Don't live to please yourself. Don't live to please others. Live to please God. Put him first, and then love your neighbor the way that Christ loved them. It's not complicated. And so here's what happens. When we get into situations where it's hard, where we don't know what to do, we do know the right next thing, which is to put God first and to love others. And here's what happens. When we focus on Jesus, we realize our purpose. We're meant for a divine purpose. We're meant to bring up there, down here. Hard doesn't define us. When we realize and we set our eyes upon Christ, we realize that we don't have to avoid it. We have unlimited grace. We have, unconditional grace, unlimited grace and unconditional love. We can try hard things, and if we get it, great. If we fail, we get to try again, right? And then we know, hey, whatever situation, even if I don't know the next thing to do, I know the simple guide to do it. Does it honor God and does it love my neighbor? And then here's what happens. Instead of hard defining us, we allow Christ to define who we'll be in the hard. Which allows me, if I was gonna sum up the whole message, I'd sum it up this way. Pursuing Christ-like what? In the middle of hard, what does it do? It protects us and it protects our destiny. Like I said earlier, the person that I need to protect myself most from is stupid Matt, right? All of us got a stupid us in us that wants to take the shortcut, that wants to do things. The problem is when hard defines us, we end up with a life that we don't want, and we end up becoming the person we regret becoming. But when we set our eyes upon Christ, and he defines our integrity, we end up living a life worth living, and we become more like him, and we get to where we want to be. And so, the timer tells me I've got to come to a close. And I have a simple challenge for every single person online in it, a challenge for every single person in the room. When hard happens, what are you doing? When hard happens, does hard define you? Or when hard happens, does Christ's integrity define how you'll respond to hard? Because they lead to two very different places. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but I didn't tell you the end of my story yet. So I'm sitting there in the parking lot. I'm a pastor. I'm a Jesus follower. I know what I need to do. I just don't actually want to do the thing I know to do. Anybody ever been in a situation? You knew what to do. You knew the right thing to do. You just didn't want to do it, right? Like, anybody been there? Okay. Glad I'm not the only person there. So I take the walk of shame into Five Guys. I can smell the food and I'm still hangry. And I instantly recognized the engineer type that owned the Ford truck. Like they stand out like a sore thumb. I knew exactly who they were. Walked over to the base people. I know it's your Ford truck. Walk over there. Hey, is that your Ford F-150? Yep, my Ford F-150. Hey, I'm so sorry. I was parking my car. I'm pretty sure I scratched your truck, and I'm sorry. I want to give you my insurance information or give you my, I want to make that right. And so the guy's, okay, we'll go take a look at it. So we go take a look at it, and I'm all embarrassed. And thankfully, he doesn't punch me or yell at me. It's not a scene. That's great. And so we walk out there. He looks at it. And he says, don't worry about it. I can buff it out and paint it. I got that. Like, the guy that owns a Ford F-150, I can fix anything. I was like, thank you. But I said, hey, I want to be really clear. I hit your car. It's my fault. I want to make it right. And in that moment, I was really glad that hard didn't define me, but Christ did. Now, I'm very fortunate because I was given a really good gift in life. And the gift that I was given was my dad. I've seen my dad go through more hard things than most people will ever experience in their life. A financial disaster that he didn't cause, a 20-year marriage dissolved because of mental health, and a sibling who struggled with addiction for decades. And while my dad is my hero, he's not perfect, but I will say this, every hard situation I've seen my dad face, hard never defined him. He always said, God will define how I will respond to hard. And what I love about my dad is I saw him live that over and over and over and over and over. Where he has the life that's worth living, and he's become the kind of person that's okay to become. And here's the great news. Maybe you didn't have a dad or mom like that, but you know who we do have is Jesus. Jesus stepped into hard, and hard didn't define Jesus. Jesus conquered hard. And the great thing is when we set our hearts and our eyes upon him in the middle of that hard, and we obey and we do the next right thing, the same power that rose Christ from the dead will step into our lives. And here's the good news. Hard will not define us, and it is not our final destination. We know how our story ends. And here's our hope and our prayer for every single person online and every single person in the room. Because hard is unavoidable. Because hard is normal. Because hard will shape you either for good or bad. Our hope and our prayer is that we would set our eyes upon Christ and allow his integrity to protect us so we end up with the life that we were meant for, and we end up becoming who God made us to be. And this is our hope and our prayer. Would you stand and pray with me, please? Hey, God, thank you for today. God, thank you that you're a truth teller. God, thank you for the foam pit of your unconditional love and your unlimited grace that gives us the courage, God, to step into hard and not avoid it, God. God, thank you that in the midst of hard, we have something greater to set our eyes upon, and that is you, Jesus, that we have a divine purpose. God, I pray that you've made it so simple just to do the next right thing. God, I pray that you would give us wisdom. I pray that you would speak to our hearts, God. God, I pray for every single person online. I pray for every single person in the room. If we are imagining a hard that we need to address, God, that you would give us the courage and the power to step into it with our eyes upon you, Jesus. This is our hope and our prayer, and all who agreed said, amen.